To Victor Writes, Victor Reads. I'm back and I'm glad you are too. Today we are breaking out. You can't see that for anything. It's the dad hat. We're going to wear the dad hat because we got a dad story here. Ella Maeve's home for orphaned sticks and wayward leaves. Her generosity knows no bounds. This was published on Medium a while back in the narrative arc. It got way fewer claps and comments than it should have, so maybe we can change that. It's a heartwarming story that's true about my daughter, Ella. It all started innocently enough. Walking to our car one day, my then 4-year-old daughter bent down, scooped up a stick, and announced with the solemnity of a judge, "This one's special, Daddy." She held it up for me to see. Nothing special, a slender twig barely strong enough to swat away a fly. She asked if she could put it in the car. I said no. She asked again, telling me it doesn't have a family. Sure, why not? I'm a pushover. I want to say I was surprised at what happened next, but I wasn't. I knew my daughter, keeper of empty bottles, who she calls the mom and the baby, and collector of as many stuffed animals as she can come across, wouldn't stop at one little homeless stick. Sure enough, this was the beginning of what would become Ella Maeve's daily mission for the next year, rescuing and adopting every discarded stick, leaf, and pine cone she could find. It wasn't long before the backseat of my car began to resemble a mobile compost heap. We no longer drove through the great outdoors. We drove in the great outdoors. Leaves crunched under her car seat as I'd wrestle the straps into place. Twigs poked me from every direction, as though they were conspiring on my demise. The pine cones, for shit's sake, the pine cones, never failing to find a way to share their sticky sap on my bare hand. I bristled every day after getting her in and out of the back seat. 100 times I decided in my mind it was time to call it quits with bringing nature into the car. 100 times I suggested maybe leaving some of the babies behind. 100 times she looked at me with those wide, beautiful brown eyes and pouty lips. Who was I to deny the debris a second chance at a forever home? Ella Maeve didn't think these were just sticks. They were orphans in need of a home. Every twig has a story. Some had been torn from their families by a vicious storm. Others had been abandoned by thoughtless passerby. And some were just looking for a new beginning after a long life on the tree. She'd pick them up, dust them off, and whisper to them, "You're safe now." It's easy to laugh at this. I did. I still do. I also see the beauty in her bizarre little collection. Little Ella Maeve didn't just see sticks. She saw potential. She saw value where others saw trash. In her own way, she reminded me of things I often forget about love, compassion, and the invisible threads that connect us all. Eventually, I had to put my foot down. No more sticks in the car. It was time to clean them out. But even then, I couldn't bring myself to throw away her family. Instead, we started a special box for them in the garage, a sort of retirement home for her leafy, twiggy friends. And every so often she'd visit them, just to make sure they were doing okay. In the end, what Ella Maeve taught me wasn't just about sticks and leaves. She taught me about the power of empathy, about seeing the world through a lens of compassion rather than convenience. She reminded me that love doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. It just has to be true to you. And that sometimes the things that seem small and insignificant to others are the very things that make life rich and meaningful. As a grown-up, it's easy to lose sight of the small, unremarkable things. We get so caught up in the rush of life that we forget to stop and notice the tiny beauty happening all around us. But Ella Maeve never missed them. She noticed the overlooked, the forgotten, and the discarded. She saw the beauty in a crooked twig or a leaf with a tear down the middle. So while the back seat of my car is now mercifully free of underbrush, my heart is still full of the lessons I learned from Ella Maeve and her home for orphaned and wayward sticks. Because if a little girl can find value in the simplest, most overlooked things in life, then surely we adults can do the same. And like I said, that's a true story, and there really are sticks that I can never throw away that are in the garage that I have here. And she would try to bring them in the house too, and I just had to put my foot down to that. There's not going to be a bunch of sticks and the bugs that they come with sitting around the house, but she would definitely have it that way. stay tuned. Maybe I'll write an article. And what's the difference between a child who's a hoarder and a child who just likes to sweet talk her way into keeping every single thing she's come across? Please leave a comment and let me know if you or your kids have ever had an interesting collection that you've had to eventually put a stop to. Leave a like, subscribe, and check me out on medium.com at Victor Yocco. I appreciate it, and thank you. I'll be back.